Today I'm in my house, which can only mean that you're probably gonna get a story time. This is a story that I wanted to tell for such a long time, but I didn't for a number of reasons. One is that it is a little bit spicy, and two is that, I don't know, I feel like I could get in trouble at work because of the theme, but I've been making story times for quite a few years while working at my company, and no one's ever found me, so I'm guessing it's probably okay. So let's risk it for a biscuit, and I'm just gonna tell you the story. Today's story is about the time that I went on a date with a Yakuza. Okay, first of all, I have to give the disclaimer that obviously I am in no way affiliated with the Yakuza. I'm sure I don't have to tell you that. I don't agree with them. They're very bad people. I have a passing interest in the Yakuza game series, but even that series I feel like is a lot of gangster movies, and the whole point of the series is that crime doesn't pay, the Yakuza are bad, blah 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 blah. So all in all, I don't agree with them, is my point. I'm going to use the term date very loosely for what happened. But anyways, the story happened quite a few years ago when I was still new in Japan and I was single, and me and my friends went to this club called Tokyo Decadence. Tokyo Decadence is kind of like, I want to say fetish club, but that makes it sound really, really extreme. It's basically just a lot of people that wear gothic clothes and they have like little shows. It's quite niche. And it's mostly just alternative people. It's a really fun party. So me and my friends were there, and we had already been drinking quite a lot, I guess. I gone to this party quite a lot, and I noticed that everyone there was quite alternative. So I was surprised when this guy approached me who wasn't alternative at all. He was just like a tall, big salary man. Like, he was wearing a suit, and he had his friend with him. The guy told me his name was Yu, and he had a very like intense energy. I assume his name was Yu, this is what he told me. He wasn't very forthcoming with the truth, so we're just gonna assume that this guy's name is Yu. He was a quite handsome guy, and he was buying me and my friends drinks all night, so obviously he was kind of like hanging out with us. The first red flag was that he had his friend with him. His friend was like a short guy, also wearing quite a fancy suit, and this guy didn't speak the whole time, and he would just bring us drinks and do whatever you told him to do. But I thought he was just like really shy, but I guess he was kind of like this guy's underling. He was a really big guy, and he had like a really intense, dominating energy. It wasn't necessarily scary for me, but I did find him very interesting, and I've never met anyone else like this person in Japan. I think that's why I was interested in speaking to him. We had quite a long conversation. He had traveled a lot. He seemed to be really well off, and he told me, well, I asked him what his job was, and at first he got really uncomfortable with the question, and then he told me he was an architect. And I was really interested in architecture, so I asked him for, like pictures of anything he worked on. And again, he got really defensive, and he didn't really have any pictures to show me or any information. And it didn't honestly sound like he knew a lot about architecture. But again, we're doing this conversation in my non-native language, so I'm like, maybe I offended him, or maybe I missed the nuance. Again, this was a red flag because a lot of the Yakuza's money comes from construction, and when they don't want to say that they're actually in the Yakuza, they will sometimes say that they work in construction or that they do architecture, which kind of makes sense. I mean, that's kind of like what they do, but not really. So yeah, after a lot of drinks and us chatting all night, he asked me if I wanted to go see his apartment, which is code for hookup, and honestly, I don't know why, but I just agreed to this without thinking. And I'm not sure, because like he was also kind of a like scary person. He was really big, and he was very like, we're gonna do this kind of person. So he wasn't my normal type, and I honestly don't know why I agreed to this. I don't know if I was just very drunk or if it was something else. But yeah, I just agreed to go to this guy's house, which is honestly really, really stupid. Do not do this. I'm very surprised that I was not murdered. But yeah, I mean, Japan's a pretty safe country, but you still shouldn't do stuff like this. But honestly, I think I was just interested to see what this guy's apartment looked like. So yeah, he paid for the tab, and then we left, and his friend came with us. The friend hadn't spoken this whole time, and it was raining when we got outside, and his friend opened an umbrella for us, me and you, and walked us, even though he was getting wet, this guy walked us to the car. I don't know where this car came from, and we got inside in the back, and then his friend drove us, and I wasn't sure because it was night and it was raining. It was very hard to tell exactly where we were going, but he said he lived in Shinjuku, and it didn't take that long to get to his house, which is important later. Then his friend got out of the car, got the umbrella again, walked us to the front door of his house, and it was like a full house, which is quite impressive for Shinjuku. And opened the door, we walked in, his friend left and just, I guess, went home without speaking even one time the whole night, which is very bizarre. But for some reason this didn't really faze me, and we got inside his apartment, and it was very like Spartan. It was very like, you could tell it was like really expensive. Like he had like an Apple Mac and like a big TV, but there wasn't a whole lot of stuff. Apart from on the walls, there were loads of picture frames filled with him, and like he was shaking hands with people, and like this is like one of the biggest red flags. There was like politicians, like famous people, and he was just pictures of him shaking hands with these people, which I thought was quite odd. There was a katana, which is so cliche, but there was like a katana there and the little sheath. I'm like, okay, that's worrying. And like at this point I'm kind of like, this is interesting. And yeah, it just seemed very weird. And then I asked him, like, you're not an architect, are you? And he's like, no, I'm not an architect. But he didn't say anything else apart from that. The weird part is I don't remember like a whole lot that happened after that. He kept saying that I charmed him in English, which is hilarious because that's something that you specifically learn to charm women. I remember like we kissed, and maybe like some not safe for work things happened. But then the next thing I remember happening is I just woke up, and I always saw this happen in movies, but I don't think this actually happened. When you wake up and you don't remember where you are. I woke up and I could not recognize the room I was in, and I could feel that there was someone sleeping next to me, and I immediately started panicking, like, what if I've been kidnapped? Oh my god, like stuff like that. And then slowly it started to recollect what happened last night. And this is very, like, I've never done anything like this. The only time anything like this has happened to me in my life, I was just so shocked. So for like a good minute, I was just frozen because I could feel like his hand was like resting on me, and I did not want to wake this person up. And like in the daylight, it was very obvious that this guy was a Yakuza. Like all the stuff everywhere. He had like these odd flags. I don't know a whole lot about it, but it just gave off very big gangster vibes. So I was like, oh my god, this guy's gonna kill me, I have to leave. So I like slid out and like got my stuff ready, and I tried to leave the apartment without him hearing me because I'm pretty sure that he was sleeping. But then when I opened the door, I guess the rattle of the chain woke him up, and as I turned around, he was standing there in front of me, and he grabbed my arm and he's like, where are you going? And then he said, oh, sorry, I didn't want to wake you. I have to go to work today, don't you remember? And then he said, but you agreed to have yakiniku with me later, don't you remember? You said that you would have yakiniku with me, and I do not remember agreeing to this. So I said, yeah, sure, of course, I will absolutely have yakiniku with you later, I really can't wait. He was still holding onto my arm really, really hard. I'm not sure if he realized that he was coming across as terrifying, but I'm pretty good under pressure. So I was like, yeah, I'm really looking forward to, okay, I have to go now because I'm going to be late for work. And then I turned to leave, and he kind of like pulled me back, and he's like, but you don't have my line ID. We didn't swap information. I'm like, oh, god damn it. Okay, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot. Sorry, I thought that I got your line. So I took out my phone and I added him online. I wanted to just leave this apartment as soon as possible. At this point, I was really freaking out. We added each other online, and then I bid him farewell, and I left. As I stepped outside, I would just realize I didn't know where I was. I knew I was in Shinjuku somewhere, and I also lived in Shinjuku, so I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna get home. And I stepped outside, and I realized that we're still in Kabukicho, like the red light district, and it's quite an expensive area. And I noticed it was like Love Hotel, his house, Love Hotel. I'm like, who lives in a place like this? Oh my god. And outside his house was like a giant SUV truck and like motorcycles, which again is like a huge red flag. It was just very bizarre. So I just went to the train station so I could get home, and I opened my line, and he messaged me saying, like the time for the reservation. And I clicked on his line profile picture, and it was a picture of him with like his back to the camera, and he was wearing this like long black jacket with gold kanji down it. I don't know what it is. I don't want to know. Honestly, I just immediately blocked him. I don't remember if I even gave this guy my name. So like, I'm pretty sure that because this was years and years ago, and I'm pretty sure we've never run into each other since. But at that time, I was like panicking, like, what if this guy finds me? What just happened? And I went back home, and I was living with my roommate at the time, and I just told her the story. And she was the one that said, it's most likely that he's in the Yakuza, and that's why he didn't admit what his job was, and like he had all that dodgy stuff in his apartment. He lived in central Kabukicho. He had all those cars and motorcycles. He had like that weird underling guy following him around. So honestly, it does make sense. The worrying thing she said, and I'm not sure if I believe this is what happened, but she said that she thought that like I might have been drugged because I just lost control of my bodily autonomy that night. I don't know why. It was just very agreeable, and like I don't know a whole lot about this. And after that, I stopped drinking for the longest time. I don't even really drink that much anymore unless I'm with just friends, because honestly it just freaked me out. I'm not sure if this is what happened, and I'm not going to accuse him of doing this because I don't really remember, because some parts I remember of that night, some parts I don't, and I also just wasn't myself at all, but that could have been for any number of reasons. So just throwing that out there. I thought I'd tell this story because obviously it's another warning, like don't do this stupid thing that I did. Also, like this happened to a friend of mine where she met a guy and they were dating for a while, and then eventually he came clean and he had lied about his job and he was actually in the Yakuza, and they had to break up. So like this is something that does happen. I'm just letting you know. I'm not sure quite how I feel about this story or how you'll feel about this story, because I was, quite frankly, an idiot during the entirety of this story, but I was also much younger. This was like 8 years ago. I've never done anything as stupid as that in my life. I've never done anything as stupid as that since. But like, also I have quite a strong mental and physical fortitude, and I think that makes me more willing to do scarier things. And yeah, that time, we used to go drinking in Shinjuku a lot, so we met tons of characters. Like, this guy's not the weirdest man that I have met in Tokyo by far. So like it felt, I don't want to say normal, but at that time it kind of did. Like now I'm extremely boring and I just spend my days going to cafes or like watching Netflix. This story seems wild to me, but honestly back then it didn't feel that wild. Yeah, Let me know what you think of this story. I know it's a little bit wild. I'm honestly very embarrassed to tell it, but I feel like all my stories on here are like kind of a little bit embarrassing. But I think it's important to talk about these things because they do happen. And I know people don't like it when women talk about dating and like sex stuff, that kind of thing, but I think there is something important that we have to talk about, particularly when you're foreign and you're moving to a different country and you don't know the culture, because honestly, like a lot of the red flags I missed in my head. I was just like, oh, because I'm not used to the culture yet, maybe I'm missing some things, maybe some things have been lost in translation. Now I've been here and I would never make that mistake again, but honestly it does happen. So let me know what you think. I hope nothing like this has ever happened to you, but if it has, let me know. And yeah, thanks for watching and please subscribe.